Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. George H.W. Bush was the first president that I was aware of. When I was 5 or 6, I would see him on TV sometimes and be like, oh, that's Bush. He is the president of America. I would see his character appear in cartoons like The Simpsons and Tiny Toons, often depicted as a silly caricature, which is quite sad because he did do a lot of things considering he was only president for 4 years. I already did a video about George Bush, but I decided to remove it and do this one instead, as there was lots of facts that I missed the first time around that I think are worth addressing. Like, one thing Bush does not get enough credit for is Bush convinced over 30 nations to join forces against the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein in the first Gulf War in 1991. Although many people assumed this war would lead to the death of thousands of soldiers, only 292 US soldiers were killed and the conflict was finished in 6 weeks. Bush is considered to be the last US president to lead a successful military intervention. And that is the first fact about President George H.W. Bush. Let's dive in. George Herbert Walker Bush was the ambassador of the United Nations between 1971 and 1972. Bush quit school in 1941 and joined the army when he was 18. In June 1943, Bush became the youngest pilot in the Navy at the time. He flew 58 combat missions during World War II. In World War II, 9 men escaped from their planes after being shot down. 8 of the men were captured, tortured, decapitated, and eaten. The 9th man was George Bush. When Bush was shot down over the Pacific, he was forced to paddle away from enemy Japanese boats until he was rescued by a US submarine. Isn't that amazing? But what's he most well known for? Broccoli.
Would you like some broccoli?
I do not like this broccoli. I do not like it. Let me be.
How do you survive World War II and your legacy is a vegetable? He was the director of the CIA between 1976 and 1977. He acted as president for 8 hours while Ronald Reagan underwent surgery. He resigned his life membership to the National Rifle Association, the NRA, in 1995 after they refused to condemn the Oklahoma City bombing. The Secret Service have a code name for every president. Bill Clinton was called Eagle, George W. Bush was called Trailblazer, Trump is the Mogul, and they referred to Bush as Timberwolf. If it's common knowledge what the Secret Service called them, then how's it a code name? Like, we know who you're talking about. He is more responsible than any other American president for defusing global warming. In 1990, he pushed the Clean Air Act, and he worked with the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1992. When the son of one of his Secret Service agents developed leukemia, Bush shaved his head to bring awareness to the condition. It is also worth mentioning that his daughter, Pauline Robinson Bush, died of leukemia. He was the vice president from 1981 to 1989. Bush heavily considered having Clint Eastwood as his running mate before finalizing on Dan Quayle. Okay, although Bush did do some incredible things, I'm not going to pretend he didn't do some silly things. During the 1988 campaign, Bush committed one of his biggest blunders when he said, "Read my lips, no new taxes." 2 years later, taxes went up and Bush's reputation was tainted. A car bomb assassination plot against Bush was stopped in Kuwait in 1993. When his son became the president, George H.W. Bush was referred to as Bush the Elder to distinguish him from George W. Bush. I already did a video about George W. Bush. I'll leave a link at the end of this video. I mean, I've done a video about every president, but it's worth mentioning. He went skydiving on his 75th birthday, his 80th birthday, his 85th birthday, and his 90th birthday. There's a Japanese word called bushusuru, which means to vomit in public. It is referred to when Bush vomited at a dinner in Japan. He and Clinton formed the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund after Hurricane Katrina. George Bush is an anagram of he bugs Gore. George Bush famously said, "Americans should be more like the Waltons and less like the Simpsons." The Waltons was a show that ran from 1971 to 1981 that revolves around a Virginia mountain family during the 1930s and 40s. Simpsons writers retaliated with this comment by saying, "Hey, we're just like the Waltons. We're praying for an end to the Depression too." He married Barbara Pierce in 1945. They had 6 children. She was known as the Silver Fox, Miss Frank, the Enforcer, and Bar. She was known for nearly always wearing a pearl necklace. Sadly, she passed away in 2018. He's related to a lot of people throughout history. He's related to Benedict Arnold, Marilyn Monroe, Winston Churchill, and several American presidents including Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Pierce, Abraham Lincoln, and Gerald Ford. He's also probably related to George W. Bush, but The jury's still out on that one. Since he lived to his 90s, unsurprisingly, he's had a lot of injuries later in his life. He had his hip replaced in 2000, and he developed skin cancer in 2002, where he underwent surgery to treat it. In 2015, Bush fell at home and broke 2 vertebrae in his neck. George H.W. Bush died from Parkinson's at the age of 94 on November 30th, 2018. Although it's terribly sad, let's end it on a positive note. The final fact is this. There was a time in America where a disabled person could be fired due to their handicap. Bush changed that forever in 1990 when he signed the Americans with Disabilities Act, protecting millions of citizens with handicaps being taken advantage of. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe. Although I've done a video about every president, if you want me to re-look at one of them, let me know. I have plenty more facts about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, JFK. Also, although I did a video about Donald Trump, I did it exactly when he became president. So all the facts are before his presidency. So I completely intend to do another video about Trump during his presidency. So let me know if that's something you want to see in the future. To learn more facts, check out my books. They're available on Amazon, on paperback, and Kindle. Thanks for watching. See you again.